So, are we ready to off and run, ladies and gentlemen, inspiring your audiences from a distance? I want to make this interactive. Hopefully you've got your phones handy with you. Hopefully you've got a phone handy. Okay, in the Leonard household, as long as you've got one between two, yeah, got a phone handy? I'm going to introduce you to a little app, and I thought we'd do something a little bit different this time. So, let me introduce this app and share my screen with you. There we go. Ba-ba-ba-ba. Okay. So hopefully you can all see that wherever you may be, all right? And what I want you to try and do, if you can, is very quickly either download the app or actually go to vvox.app, www.vvox.app, and you will pick up that application. Okay? So if you can do that, pick up the application and get VVox on your phones if you can. And then enter in the ID, which is 120-965-498. So 120-965-498. Okay? Hopefully everybody's had a chance to do that. Is that a bit of a yes from most people? Just for a bit of fun. In the process of doing it. Lovely. Yeah, Tony is there. Hopefully you got that. It's a bit of fun, but we'll see what comes out of this because it could be different. So I'm going to ask you a question on this, and you just have to put the answers in, as many as you like. It's a word thing. So give me 3 positive words about you working remotely. 3 positive words about you working remotely. There we go. Nice and easy. Dan's gone off to find his phone. 3 positive words about you working remotely.
Can I just have the meeting ID again? Oh, I've got it. I've got it. It's there.
Sorry, it's at the top there, Richard. Yeah. Okay. I'll give you just a couple of minutes for everybody to have a bit of a go. And then we'll see through the power of magic. All you have to do is enter the text and press send. It's pretty straightforward. You've probably done some of these before. So, are we ready? A few more still coming in. Okay. Right, I've closed it now. And let's see through this amazing kind of word cloud, the sort of, can you see that then? That's what we get. Focus, fascinating little thing. Can I make it any bigger? I don't think I can actually. Let me go back. Family, flexibility, influence, capability, difference, challenging, less, effective, balance, connect, mindfulness, distractions. Lovely. Thank you for that. The second one, and these are the only 2 interactive bits of today apart from our conversations. The second question, 3 negatives about you working remotely. It doesn't have to be 3, it can be as many as you like, but some words that sum up the negatives about working remotely. Are you ready? Here we go. I thought about singing while you do this, but then for those of you who heard my voice, that wouldn't have been a pleasant thing to experience. Don't laugh, Martha. 3 negatives about working remotely. And the lovely thing about this, you can do it from all over the world, wherever you are. Everybody's into this quickly now. It's lovely. Are we all there? Right. Thank you for that. Closing it. Let's have a look at some of the negatives about working remotely. Isolation, isolated, lonely, boring, tiring, vulnerable, boundaries, boredom. Thank you for that. Really interesting, isn't it? And I think you sum up exactly what we're all going through at the moment. I'm just going to admit Ross and Jerry, who are coming in as well. So interesting, 3 negatives about working remotely. Thank you for that. Let's give you some of the stats that some of the people have discovered over the last few weeks of us being in lockdown. I found this fascinating. 49.2%, of adults in employment are working from home as a result of COVID, right? Almost half the working population who are still working are working from home as a result of this. 72% of the HR people, and this has been a thing that came up on LinkedIn, agree that work flexibility will be important for the future. I think we've all discovered about being flexible and working from home, it's going to be a whole new world. Well, the HR people say that's going to be what the future is going to look like. And I found this fascinating. 99% of people who choose to work remotely would, at least part-time, for the rest of their careers. Yeah. Do you agree with that, guys? After discovering this, we'd all like to do at least some of it from home. And how about this, guys? For those of people who are employing lots of people, 69% of millennials will trade other benefits. I'm not quite sure what the other benefits are for the flexible work options, including remote work. Guys, welcome to the new world. Everything's changed. So here we go. However, although remote work enables employees to work everywhere, 84% of them would prefer to work from home. I'm not sure they're the ones with family and pets and other people all in lockdown with you, but you know, that was the survey, that's what came out. 74% said that if they had the option of working from home, they'd be less likely to leave their company. Now, isn't that interesting? Whether anybody's going to leave any company at the moment until they find out what's going to happen, but 74% would make them less likely to leave. So as a way of keeping your workforce with you and engaged. And of course, I just thought I'd put down there some of the benefits that come from working from home. Office costs, staff retention, we talked about that. Environmental benefits. I mean, 3 planes today, and I'm talking about it. Normally we get 3 planes going across, you wouldn't even bat an eyelid. Higher morale. We'll explore that a little bit. And a wider talent pool. When you can do this with anybody, anywhere around the world, why should we think in terms of boxes that we all get together and sit round a table? So the world is going to change. That I saw on the New York Times. And I thought, wow, look how things have changed. I don't know how many of you used to use Zoom a lot before this, but guess we're all on it now. And it's going to be the way it's going to be. And that's just the uptick, as they say. I don't like uptick, but that's exactly the way it's gone. However, let's very briefly touch on the downside. Half of remote employees say they feel disconnected. Interesting, that reflects what you did on your word cloud just then from other employees. Loneliness, 19% said loneliness. We had loneliness on the word cloud as well. Let me just, I don't really see that come up, right? And what about unplugging after work? Quick show of hands. Anybody struggle to turn off? It's an always on society, isn't it? We don't stop, we keep going. Yeah? Quick show of hands as well. How many people have suddenly discovered themselves still online, working, 9 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night? Tony's shaking his head. You steely resolve, Tony, about, no, I'm going to clock off at 5 o'clock, whatever. But the majorities do it. I don't know whether you found the same thing over the past few months now, as it is now, few weeks, few months. I've found myself sort of coming in at odd times and just doing stuff. What does that all say? The need to inspire your audience from a distance is just going to go like that, isn't it? And today, I thought, wouldn't it be good to talk about some of the skills we'll need to inspire the audience, connect with the audience, and really make a difference. So a couple of quick things. One is my favorite quote of all time. And if you haven't got this quote on your wall, print it off and stick it on your wall. Because it is so true in connection. For all of you who are experienced about going on stage and everything else, people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did. But people will never forget how you made them feel. And that's a positive and a negative in that. If you're leading people and they don't feel good about it, well, all the things we talked about, the opportunity now to work elsewhere remotely, could take them away from you. You don't want that to happen. If you make them feel good, though, if you make them feel really excited about being there and wanting to be there, guess what? You're going to hang on to them for quite a long time. So that works. So all this remote communication is vital as part of that. Everything I talk about is in journeys. If you've been with us for the last 6 sessions, thank you, firstly. I talk about journeys a lot because life is a journey and we have little journeys in all the stuff we do. So remote connection is a journey too. The advice would be the simple stuff. Who's on the journey? Yeah. Who do you want to influence and persuade? Who are your audience? Now, forgive me. I better say, I always say audience. My life has been in front of audiences. I can't get out the habit. I always say sort of audiences. So who are your audience? Who do you want to persuade and influence? Who do you want to make a difference to? Are you very clear about that? And Jeremy's got something really excited to talk about as a tool to do that, which we shall share later. Secondly, before that, whoops. That was clever. Well, I like that.
It went so well in rehearsal, didn't it?
That went so well in rehearsal. You didn't see any of that, really. You've never seen that in the movies. You know, Titanic. Oh, it's sunk. Let's start from there. Anyway, the outcome. What is your outcome for your audience journey? What do you want them? And I always say this, and if you want to write it down, please feel free. What will they think and do when they walk away, and how long will they think and do it for is the only reason we do it. It's true, isn't it? Every meeting, every opportunity to persuade and influence, if you're selling something to someone, what will they think and do when they walk away? How long will they think and do it for is a measure of your success. But are you clear about it? Are you clear about what you want them to walk away thinking and doing? I know there are loads of people in this world who do the shotgun approach. Yeah, I often call it mud against a wall approach. I'm going to throw loads of stuff at you and just hope that you take some of it away with you. We've all been in presentations like that. We've all probably been sold to like that as well. Yeah, it doesn't work anymore. It's a whole new world. So instead of doing that, how about thinking slightly differently about this, right? Who are your audience? What's the outcome? What do you want them to think and do when they walk away? And how long do you want them to think and do it for? So video is going to be one of the most powerful ways we do that. Thus the call today. How can we be better at video? How can we really make a difference by using cameras and lenses? Now, I'm going to talk a little later about how you perhaps a few tools and tips for influencing, persuading, and inspiring your audience that you can take away today and use and play with and try out. Before that, though, I'm going to introduce someone else to you. Now, my friend Jeremy. Jeremy and I have known each other for years and years and years ago. In fact, it shows how old I am. Jeremy came to us when he was a student, when we had a radio station. And he was great on that. Since then, and that was 20 years ago, which is kind of scary in a way. Since that, he's been a director, cameraman on all sorts of programs. He's worked in entertainment shows. He's worked on X Factor. He's worked on Strictly. He's worked on Britain's Got Talent. He's produced and shot shows at Wembley. He's worked with Shania Twain, Bono, Bon Jovi, Dua Lipa. You getting the idea here? He kind of knows what he's talking about a bit. He's passionate about video. And over the last few years, he's immersed himself in everything digital. So I'm delighted. Is he blushing? Yeah. I'm delighted. I'm delighted to say that Jeremy is going to join us today to chat a little bit about some tips and tricks. So I'm going to hand over to Jeremy. Hopefully, Jeremy will come in full view for you. And in fact, if I stop the share, Jeremy, you can say hello in full living color. And then I'll click again. Can you all see Jeremy there? Give me a wave if you can. Mm-hmm. Brilliant. Jeremy, away you
Marvellous. Excellent. Are you going to share your screen then, John?
I will. So there we go.
That would be marvellous. Right, hang on.
There we are. It's all yours.
It's marvellous. Well, good afternoon, ladies and gents. I am not seeing, which is really... John, have you enabled that screen share thing?
Let me check whether it's
I can see it.
There we are. You should be remote controlling that. Now, we're experimenting with the wonders of technology and all the things you can do.
Give me a camera, I'm all right, right?
Give me a camera.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll give you a Zoom screen. It's all yours.
Exactly. Right, lovely. Thanks, John. That's brilliant. As John was sort of saying just now, before he was bigging me up, which is lovely, John, thanks very much. Unfortunately, there isn't like a hugely sort of sexy headline in terms of how to make good content in terms of video. It all starts with planning, and actually a large part of it, well, the main bit of it is to really understand and know your audience so that you know who you're talking to, and obviously that then leads on to you being able to tailor your message specifically to that group of people. How do you do that? Well, there's an amazing little thing. By the way, I'm not trying to teach people how to suck eggs and stuff like this. If you do,
update from Fallout last night.
Bear with me. Someone's saying hello. Say again. Hello, Sarah. Is it you?
Right.
I think. Right.
Was that
no?
That was it.
Forward it on Sunday.
Was it on Sunday? I don't know.
What? You ever get the feeling that we're in the middle of a kind of surreal, out-of-world experience here?
I'm guessing the edit scissors might come in about here. Anyway, okay. So there's some really good tools to enable you to really drill down and understand who your audience or who your audiences are. That's the thing with this whole new brave kind of digital world and things like Facebook ads, YouTube ads, and the like. They are so targeted, and they can really get you.
Sorry,
Gail.
I've done it. I've muted. Carry on.
Oh, well done. Thanks. Sorry. Yeah. So obviously, with things like Facebook ads and all those kind of digital ads, you can really be super niche and really kind of drill down to really very specific sets of people. But obviously, you need to know who those people are and be able to target and message them in the right way, so that you're, whatever you want them to do, they end up doing, whether it's selling, whether it's just giving them information, whether it's warming them up as a prospect, whatever. So using a thing like a customer avatar, basically it takes you through the process and asks you loads and loads of questions. It's a bit of it's not the easiest piece of work to do, and it is very comprehensive, but once you've done it once, it's absolutely brilliant. And it really, having done it kind of the last couple of months for my business, it really gives you a handle on exactly who your target audience for particular service or product or whatever, who you're absolutely talking to. And importantly, it allows you to work out where they are online, as in, where do they exist? What platforms do they frequent? Because obviously, if you know, for example, that, that your target market is on LinkedIn, well, LinkedIn content's going to be different and have a different slant to, for example, if you're wanting to find those people on Facebook. It has huge knock-on effects in terms of how you go about producing that content. It doesn't mean that it'll take you longer to do it. It just means that you need to go, like John was saying earlier, you need to go in with the end in mind. So you need to understand who you're talking to, but also really critically, what do you want them to do off the back of your content or your video? There we are. So once you've gone through the customer avatar process, which we are going to let you have a copy of, it just takes you through and builds a real character of the type of people that you're targeting. In your business, you might actually target, there might be sort of 4 or 5, even maybe more groups of people that you offer your products or services to, or you interact with. Equally, there may be just 1 or 2, but it really is critical, and it is really the foundations to creating some really good and effective content. So like I said before, once you know who you're talking to, and you really know them, you know where they live online. Why is that important? Because, like I said before, each platform has different rules, in the sense of, for example, Facebook's really helpfully got, you might want to do a video on a phone, for example. Okay, so we all go and we're going to film in landscape tele mode, and then accept that when you're doing stories, the ratio's that. Well, that's really helpful, isn't it? Now, if you're planned about it, you know that, well, okay, I can film this in landscape, but I need to make sure that the important element of whatever I'm filming is in that central little square, because for Facebook stories, for example, and also for Instagram and stuff like that, it's portrait mode, square, 1 by 1. So you need to know all of that kind of thing, and you need to have made those decisions before you go out or you jump in front of a camera, because obviously it has huge implications in terms of how you produce video content. Also, the other thing as well, which is massively handy, obviously, is each of the platforms have completely different rules, and in this, well, I say rules, they're sort of guidelines, but what you'll find is when you start producing, I don't know if any of you guys are producing video at the moment, but what you'll be finding is that, you know, if you're doing an Insta thing, for example, they are super short. I mean, it's a bit like TikTok, it's 15 seconds maximum. You know, YouTube, you can run things longer. The optimum kind of running time for YouTube is about 7.5 minutes, but with YouTube, I mean, this is a subject for an entire kind of Zoom thing on its own, really. But YouTube, it's good to vary it up. So sort of 7.5 minutes is great, but then every now and again do a longer version. It basically allows you to dig in, you know, go in a bit more detail for whatever sort of subject you're talking about. Facebook, again, when you actually look at all the guidance on Facebook, they say 30 seconds is what they recommend, although personally, I've done stuff where I would never go more than 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes. People's attention spans are like goldfish, literally, at the moment. So, you know, keep it properly snappy. And the other thing to say whilst we're talking about these things is that you really, and I know John in one of his previous chats was talking about the grab. It's, you know, you really need to hook people in, and you need to be doing that within within the first 20 seconds. There's some brilliant resources actually online that if you just Google for things like YouTube, there are definite structures that these things take. But what all of the platforms have in common is the need to really hook your audience very quickly. And if people don't, what you've got to think about is that you've got to stop that scroll. You know, we're all kind of scrolling through things, and it's about arresting that scroll, and then people tapping on it, and then within seconds you need to get to the meat and bones of what you're talking about, so they can make a decision. Oh, this is interesting, or no, it's not. So, I mean, I would really steer away from, you know, very, very expansive, exotic kind of intro sequences and stuff like that. Equally, all these kind of big waffly intros about who you are and how great you are. No one cares. I hate to break it to you, but no one cares. They want the content, they want the good stuff. So, you know, the quicker you get to that, the better. I mean, fundamentally, really, it all comes down to respecting the audience's time. They've chosen to invest their time in listening and watching you. I mean, it goes for all kinds of content, really, but, you know, they've chosen to be there with you. So don't sort of abuse that trust that they put in you, that, you know, and waste their time by just kind of waffling around the point. So having said all that, I don't want you to be in a pit of despondency. Please don't throw your laptop away because you think, oh, I've got to, you know, make 75 different pieces of content every week to go on each platform, because there is a solution, which is, as the screen chugs up in steam powered, you know, the way around all of this, and the way to really kind of quickly and efficiently create content. And again, it comes back to the whole planning piece. The more planned you are, the better organized you are. It will pay dividends massively when it comes to you actually physically creating the content. So batch recording, just let me explain that quickly. It's the idea that you, in your very, very busy diary, will set up 1 or 2 days to just create content. Now, if you're doing stuff like this, so like in a webcam situation, what I'd do is, you know, you'll have scripted maybe, or done some bullet points or whatever, but you fundamentally know, I'm going to talk about this, then I'm going to talk about this, and then I'm going to do a video about this. Maybe change it up, have a couple of shirts or whatever, so that people don't think you've just sat there, and when they watch, you know, the next 3 weeks of your content, they're going, they've had that shirt on for 3 weeks. But, you know, so do a little bit of that sort of thing works very well. But effectively, the idea is that you want to allot some time that is just devoted to you creating content, so that you're not then kind of halfway through your week and thinking, oh my gosh, I haven't done something for LinkedIn, or I need to do this, that, and the other. As I say, it all comes back to planning. A lot of time in your diary to create this content, and then batch record it. It just becomes so much easier. And the other thing to do is to, rather than kind of, it can get, I mean, I know it can get so like overwhelming with, you know, Facebook wants it 1 by 1 or 16 by 9 or whatever it is. Just concentrate on doing one big chunk of content per week, let's say, and out of that big long chunk of content, what you want to be doing is structuring it in a way that you can cut down into little chunks, and those are the little chunks that you then will go and put on LinkedIn. So 1.5 minutes goes onto LinkedIn, and then you know, maybe a sort of 1 minute and 15, minute 20 can go onto Facebook. Or you could use the same, you know, the same chunk of footage. That works. I've done that before. And then obviously for things like Insta, if you're on Insta, then you need to do something super compact, like a little 15-minute sting or whatever. But the fundamental thing is start with your big piece of content that you then put on something like YouTube, and then subdivide it down. That will make it so much easier to produce for you. Now, in terms of running times, like I've said before, it's about 7.5 minutes to about sort of 15 to 20. I've seen stuff that's a lot longer than that. You know, on YouTube, you get stuff that goes on for an hour or so. I think the jury's out. It really depends on what your niche is, what the subject matter is, and how engaged your audience is on that as to whether people will stick around for that amount of time. I should say, obviously, oh, where's that gone? Oh, that's a bit embarrassing. Zoom window has completely disappeared. That's where.
If you go to the bottom of the screen and click on your Zoom icon again, it'll come back.
Thank you very much. Share. Why did that disappear? Just randomly in the middle of me talking. There we are. I don't know what happened there. Anyway, that's not going to be in the finished item. You can guarantee.
Okay, don't worry, Jeremy. I've been on stage walking out in front of thousands of people, and suddenly the microphone wasn't on, but the camera, and that was very embarrassing. Anyway,
there is a reason why I like being behind the camera, and this is one of them. Anyway, right, crashing on. So yes, I've gone through these running times. 30 seconds per minute for Facebook. Facebook, big thing to remember. Again, I don't want to sort of teach you guys how to suck eggs. Facebook is not for selling. Do not sell on Facebook. It is about warming the audience up. It's information. And especially now during COVID, people, the whole kind of, it's incredible how the whole kind of digital marketing thing has shifted, and the tone of conversation. Frankly, at the moment, it's about helping people really, because, and even if you're kind of doing it with an ulterior motive, even that seems to come across as being really disingenuous. So personally, I'd go be very careful if that's kind of what you're doing. That, you know what I mean? I think you just got to be pretty straightforward and genuinely want to help people on Facebook. And again, Facebook and, well, all of these platforms, they're a long game. They're not a magical kind of traffic tap. All of these things, they, you know, when you're producing content, it takes probably 3-6 months before you start to get real traction. But when you do start to get traction, it's one of those really delicious upward curves. You know, the more people that get involved, the more people that enjoy what you do, and the more feedback you get, obviously, you can, it's a two-way conversation, like John was saying. You know, you understand more about what your audience is after, and then you can deliver it. As I say, LinkedIn is about 1 to 2 minutes for a LinkedIn thing. LinkedIn have been quite late to the game, really, in some respects. I mean, Facebook, they do Facebook Lives, which is another thing for another day. LinkedIn have now started to do LinkedIn Lives, but relatively recently. It's still kind of, from my point of view, I am uploading stuff to LinkedIn, but it's really hard to work out kind of the optimum length for stuff, because, you know, if you look at the kind of stuff on Google about it, they claim that they are kind of, oh, let's make it 30 seconds. But my instinct would say, with the audience that you've got there, the type of people that are on that platform, actually there is more of an appetite, and this has been borne out by my stuff that I've put up there so far. I think you can run it slightly longer, not as long as YouTube, but it's certainly a couple of minutes. Again, as long as it's really relevant and, you know, gets to the point, doesn't waste people's time, that kind of thing. Instagram, like I said, 15 seconds. If you're on Instagram, good luck. But no, I mean, Insta's great, but it's very, very kind of almost quite throwaway. Right, so with all that fantastic sort of workflow stuff, how do you come up with the ideas? Right, and this is something that comes up a lot when you start talking to people about, well, you know, you should be posting once a day on LinkedIn and, you know, twice a week or whatever it is on the other platforms. you've got to come up with the ideas, right, for what people want to hear. Now, the first thing I do, and the first thing I do when I'm working with people, is we look at your competitors and we work out what are they doing. And you'll be surprised sometimes in certain niches that generally, I think people feel like they're quite late to the game on the video side of things, but actually it doesn't seem like that, honestly. Have a look at your niche, have a look at what your competitors are doing, and also note what platforms they're using, because if they are good competitors in the sense of that, they're not complete and utter jokers, they will be having a strategy, and I'm sure that you guys have got some kind of social media strategy as well. So they'll have been research behind why they are on the platforms that they're on. Have a look at their posts. What are they posting? What sort of topics are they talking about? Are they posting videos? Are they doing static posts? Are they doing infographics and all of that kind? Just have a look. Do not copy it, but just, let's say, be influenced by it and put your own spin on it. The trouble is with just sort of doing a cut and paste job, is that it's not in your voice, and it's so easy to see that you've just basically lifted it from somewhere else. And also the other thing, which is the main reason, ethically it stinks a bit, but I would definitely not do it, because Google and the search engines are very, very good at spotting plagiarism. So, the other thing to do as well is Google. Literally type in what your clients would type in as search terms, and you will get a lot of allied search terms. Now, those are things that people genuinely have actually clicked on. So they might be questions, or they might be long tail keywords or whatever. That's absolute golden information that you can then package your content around. So you're in other words, what people are looking for. The other thing to do is, where's that gone? There it is. At the bottom of Google, when you do, so you have your main little bit at the top, and then at the bottom of the page, after you've got all the listings, there's the kind of people also search for bit. That is also fantastic, because again, that's a great source of content ideas. What are the questions people are actually asking Google for? And the thing is, with all of these things with Google, if you're answering the question exactly how it's being typed into Google, then guess what happens to your post when you put that form of words in? Your ranking shoots up eventually. Again, it's a longer term game. It's not going to happen overnight, but over a period of weeks it will. Google is all about relevance. It wants people to use Google, obviously, and provide really, really relevant information. The other thing, which is a cheeky little gold nugget, this one, answerthepublic.com. If you've not heard of it, it's absolute genius. What you do, definitely write this down, guys. Go there, type in your niche or whatever you do, or service or whatever. That then comes up with what this website does is it scrapes all the search data from Bing, from Google, from all the different search engines, and collates it in a really very nice graphical way. So you will get a graphical representation of the questions people are asking to do with your niche. Absolute genius. And it's free, which is even better. It's an absolutely brilliant way of coming up with ideas. And the thing is as well, once you start creating content, there'll be stuff that will come off, that will branch off that, because you go, actually, if I've done something about, for example, if I've done something about editing, well, actually it might be worth doing something about how you upload a video. Do you see what I mean? So things will follow from each other. And also the other thing to say is, when you're putting out this content, interact, ask questions to your audience. The more interaction you get involved with, the more lively your channels look like. So for example, on YouTube, if you've got comments that come in under your video, always reply to them. I would do that on whatever, obviously LinkedIn, it's just nice, isn't it? If someone says, that was great, thanks very much, well, just go, yeah, thanks, I'm glad you enjoyed it, or whatever. But the bottom line is, the more active those posts are, i.e. the more comments, likes, shares, those all shove the posts up the rankings, because the bottom line for all these platforms is they want people to stay on the platform. So the more interactive and the more sticky the content is, the better, and they will love you for it. So let's just very, very quickly get techie. I'm not going to show you how to like a massive feature film. This is literally how to do something like this. So let's just keep it super simple, I'd suggest, first up, right? So let's talk about doing something like this. I'm not going to mention Paul Collins, but he does look like he's on Crime Watch because because he's a shadow. Now, Paul, I don't know Paul. Paul might have done that deliberately, but I kind of miss seeing Paul's beautiful face. So what would be lovely in that situation would be if Paul turned himself around a bit so that the light was coming onto his face. Now here, I've got a window which is over there. No, Paul, don't feel bad. Oh, there we are. Look at Paul. Hello, Paul. I feel dreadful. Yeah, so basically to start with, I'd just keep it simple, not get too bogged down in the lighting side of things. Literally just, use natural light where you can. It's really, really, it's often very diffuse and it's very, very complementary. So it's a really good point to start. So rather evidently in this lovely little graphic, just face yourself towards the daylight. And also in terms of background, if you can, I understand sometimes people are in little kind of cramped spaces or whatever, try and make there be some distance between you and the background, because with these cameras on webcams, they're what's called depth of field. So the point at which they're in focus is actually quite a big distance. They've got quite a big depth of field, which is a deliberate thing. If you're doing things on DSLRs and all that thing, I don't want to get too into that, but you're a bit more in control of the depth of field, and so you can throw the background out. But the idea being, you don't want people to be distracted by the background. It's all about you. In this one instance, it's all about you, making sure you're the focus. So yeah, ideally don't light the background if you can help it. The background should be darker than the subject of the frame. Now, if you wanted to get posh and do some lighting stuff, these things here on the right hand, that is a ring light. They are you can get them for about, I think, 80 quid on Amazon, something like that. Obviously you need a stand. Imagine if you're just shooting on your phone, literally what you'd do is you'd have the light in front of me here, and I would poke my phone through the ring light there. It's a very, very complimentary light, very flattering. And it basically was used for portrait photography for ages, and it will make you look like this guy down here. Do you see like the light in the eyes? You've got a very nice kind of little rings around the eyes. It's very flattering light. So that is if you want to do the lighting thing, that with one light is a great way to start. Lots of vloggers on YouTube and everyone uses that sort of setup. Right, so now let's talk about framing, shall we? Let's do that. Now, this lovely gentleman here, what you want to do is try and frame according to the rule of thirds. I'm not going to waffle on. The rule of thirds is a thing that it's just the way that your eye perceives pictures and things like that, and what your brain thinks is a pleasing, aesthetically pleasing frame. What you want to do is have your eyes 2/3 of the way up the frame, and you need to be roughly, he says now, altering where he is, but you kind of need to be in the middle. And for these kind of things, like a head and shoulders is absolutely perfect. What you want to try and avoid, and I'm not going to pick on anyone, what you want to try and avoid is 75 feet of headroom, just in case a plane flies through. The reason I'm a cameraman, so I get a bit pernickety about these sort of things. Also, yeah, just think about what's in the background. If you're doing, I mean, obviously it depends. If you're doing a family quiz, it doesn't matter. But if you're doing something for B2B kind of stuff, you just need to kind of bear that in mind, right? I mean, yesterday, myself and John were talking about trying to level up his camera and stuff because all the angles were off. And it's one of those things that actually, if you just pay a little bit of attention to these elements, actually it makes for a much nicer viewing experience. And you don't want to give anyone any reason for being distracted, like the guy there with his all brown packet in the background. You know, people aren't going to be concentrating on what that, I mean, sure, he had something amazing to say, but everyone's going to be wondering what that all brown packet, well, certainly I would be. Anyway, onwards. The other thing, which is huge, and as a cameraman, really pains me to admit, it's all about the sound. Having told you all about framing and stuff, and giving Paul some grief, it's actually all about the sound. You really, really, really need to get this right, because ultimately you can, I hate to admit it, you can get away with slightly dodgy visuals, but if people can't hear you, it's game over. You'll literally lose the audience in seconds. So I would definitely, definitely, definitely invest in good microphones. And luckily today, we have got a fantastic model in the shape of Mr. John Hammond from just outside Huddersfield. And he is wearing what is called a lavalier mic. Now, one of those, basically, John's mic there is plugged straight in, I believe, to the camera, isn't it? So that little setup is brilliant because it's very directional. So it's picking up the sound.
Yeah, I can show you in that there. I don't know if you can see that. That's a little lavalier, which actually goes to a camera back there. However, sorry, I think just say, I also carry one of these with me all the time, which is a little lavalier microphone, which I bought on Amazon for 14 quid. For
14 quid? That's
amazing. I know you're saying it can be very expensive. However, that goes into my phone. And it makes the quality of my phone so much better. You can get them for laptops as well. So you don't have to spend a fortune on it to have an instant upgrade in sound quality. And they just plug into your earphone socket in your phone. And straight away, you can clip it on and do little pieces to camera, which Jeremy was talking about earlier, which make a huge deal of difference. And the sound quality, I promise you, will be dramatically improved straight away. And there's nothing worse as well, Jeremy, is it when your sound quality is someone is on their laptop and it's that tinny laptop sound you can only just hear.
Just don't use the inbuilt mics on computers. They're just no good. I mean, even like, sorry to interrupt that, John, but I mean, even if it's an inline mic, like, you know, you've got on you, this is a thing from the phone, but you know, like if you've got a little inline mic like that, that will be absolutely fine. That will be better than using your microphone in the computer. I mean, this thing here, I'm just going to bit of product placement. So this whole little setup here was about a couple of $100 quid. But you don't, you know, I mean, unless you're doing loads of it, this is kind of a little bit overkill, I would suggest. So I mean, it is. Oh, look at, yes.
Jeremy, for that. These are little, clever little microphones, which work really, really well. They're blue mics, little Eskimo mics, but that works incredibly well and gives you a very good sound if you're doing podcasting, so you can justify the cost. Sorry, Jeremy, carry on.
Can you go back to your shared screen moment again? Is that possible?
I certainly can.
Listen, guys, I hope it's not too kind of, I know it's kind of, we're whisking through this at a rapid pace, but I hope you're getting value from it. So basically the mic, I mean, that's amazing that you picked up that mic for 14 quid. That's incredible. So there's also the other thing that I found, which has been getting some pretty good reviews, is one of these things. So basically that is a wireless Bluetooth mic for your phone. So again, if you're walking around, and also that comes with a little wing gag that you can pop on the top. So you literally clip that on and it will transmit directly to your phone. It's about 130 quid. But when you're doing, you know, side-by-side comparisons of the phone, you know, inbuilt phone mic and that, I mean, absolutely brilliant. And honestly, I'm not on some kind of retainer with these either. But the other good thing about those things is that they've got inbuilt noise attenuation as well. So they suppress the background noise, which if you're out and about, if you're doing stuff that's out and about, on your phone, and I mean, to be completely honest, with the new iPhone sort of 11, the video quality and the camera quality on those is absolutely incredible. So, you know, to start off with, you literally just, I'm going to embarrass myself because I am Android, never mind, but you know, you can use your phone, and I would encourage you to do that. But yeah, just when it comes to the sound, just don't compromise, because it it does have a direct effect. And, you know, bad sound will lose your audience within seconds, and they won't come back either. But with all of this, all of the tech, don't let the tech and all of that be a barrier to you starting. Just get started, because I mean, there was someone, I was watching a thing the other day, and they were saying, you know, no one was born, unless it was John Hammond, no one was born an amazing presenter, right? I mean, and I'm testament to that. But you know, you've got to start somewhere, and the key thing is that you start. There's so much opportunity now with the webcams, with all these amazing apps and stuff. Just get going, and in terms of getting your business top of mind, now is a brilliant time to start doing that. And like I say, as long as your kind of messaging and your tone is right, and you're not, you know, and you're doing appropriate things for the appropriate platform, which comes back to the planning thing. As long as you've done all of that legwork, I mean, just crack on, guys, and do it. You know, and what's the worst thing that happens is that no one watches it, and you might have a little cry into your biscuits, but no one. It's not like you're on telly and you've made a bit, you know, a horrendous mistake, is it? So with all of this, though, don't forget, it really isn't about you or us. It's about your audience. So never forget that. Always, anytime you're making any content, that has to be front and center all the time. I hope you've got some kind of sense out of all that. And I'm going to hand you right over to Mr. John Hammond, who's going to tell you some more stuff.
Thanks, Jeremy. I was really enjoyed that.
Thank you, Paul.
What I'm going to do, I'm going to stop the share on that. Paul's a good guy. He can take it. He's good fun. So I've stopped the share on that and come back to here. Let me just very quickly zip in the. Vince said, Jeremy, is this per person? Vince, what was that one? Do you want to unmute yourself? Just ask the question. No.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, when you spoke about the avatar, were you meaning creating an avatar per person in the audience, or an avatar that represents the audience?
Exactly that. Yes, Vincent. So yes, should have been a bit clearer. It's it's per customer type, if that makes sense. So it, right. You know, you might, you know, to mean you might be, so for example, for me, for our video production company, I am talking to business owners, I'm talking to entrepreneurs, I'm also talking to the marketing directors. Do you see what I mean? Yeah. So each of those people we've created separate avatars. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, you know, they definitely share a lot, but there are definite kind of differences. And those are the things when you're...
We're talking about basically an avatar for a demographic group, aren't we?
Exactly.
Okay.
But yes, as I say, it goes into quite a lot of detail. It's a little bit tedious, but I tell you what, it's really worth doing if you can.
Yeah.
The other thing I always do, for those people I've worked with, they know I have 6 principles. The first principle is be the audience, which is shorthand for get inside the audience's head. The more you really understand the audience, the more you'll be able to persuade and influence them and connect with them. And they're more likely to walk away thinking and doing what you want them to. So be the audience is the first one. The second one is a WIFM, which you may have heard of many times, but what's in it for them? Because that's what they're interested and excited about. You've been lovely people. You joined us for an hour. We've almost finished, but you've kindly given us your time, right? But hopefully you were thinking before I came on, oh, I might learn something that's useful for me on that. I might be able to take that and do something with it next week, week after, or anything like that. So that's what every member of your audience will be thinking. And so we started by saying, what's the start point? The start point is be the audience. What's in it for them? Understand them. The out point is what will they do and think when they walk away from you. And how long will they do and think it for? Because that is what will make the big deal of difference. We've got about 3 minutes. If you want to pop any questions up there very, very quickly for Jeremy on the session. I was originally going to talk a lot more about the psychology behind it. I'll do that next session. And in fact, I will try and make sure that, in fact, if you are free, guys, is it a week on Thursday? Says me checking my diary at the same time. I believe it is. I will send you an email anyway with Jeremy's avatar. Yeah, and the information you talked about then. So I'll do that as a PDF attachment. But also we'll do the next session. What about the psychology of doing it? So we've talked about the physicality of it and the video and the opportunities within it and the challenges as well. It's all very honest. But I want to talk next time about how do we really connect? How can we make that difference? Because, guys, that is a skill that is going to go up and up and up in terms of need. I had a lovely chat this morning with a certain person who's actually on the call as well about what we're going to need for leaders of the future. We were chatting about it, really interesting conversation. I think leaders of the future are going to be able to pivot very quickly. So they're going to be able to turn quite quickly, change, see laterally, see the big picture. And they're going to have to be people who can persuade and influence, even they're not in the same room. Because in the old days, your bosses sort of would say, do this. And in the old days, we'd say, yes, certainly. Now, especially for a lot of the younger generation, the boss says, do this. And the young generation says, why? And that's become more and more important. So persuasion, the art of persuasion influence is going to be really important. So on our next session, if you fancy joining us for it, we'll talk about that a lot more. Let's just do some questions on this. Any tips, Jeremy, on easy editing the 10-minute block? What would you suggest?
I would start with 3 things, like if you're on a Mac, something like iMovie is a very, very good starting point. There is also, I think it's called OpenShot, which is an open source PC-based editing software. Again, actually on your phone, there's some great, there's one actually by GoPro. I mean, you have to have a look at it and make sure it's actually appropriate to, because it's quite sort of adventure sports in terms of the graphics and stuff. But there are some great apps that sit on your phone, and you can literally just drag the clips about, put some graphics on, put a little bit of music on, and then you can export it straight up to Facebook or wherever you want to put it in terms of platform. But yeah, I mean, I'd as a starting point for slightly more grown-up stuff, I'd look at iMovie and as a starting point, and something like OpenShot for the PC. I mean, there's loads. Camtasia is very good. ScreenFlow is very good. That's a good basic. That those 2 are paid for, but they're quite, I think they're a couple £100.
I would suggest, Jeremy, possibly dip your toe with one of the free ones to just get used to the idea of editing digital material. It honestly, years ago when we sat there with Avids and Jason, or Jason's not with us, but he might be on the call, who was an expert in that, but these amazing TV editing. I remember the old days of TV editing when you went from one take to another take and cut it by hand with a razor blade. Thank God those days have gone. There are so many digital ways of doing it now. Dip your toe in it. If you have any questions, I'm going to put the contacts up for both Jeremy and I. Happy to answer any questions. And dip your toe with the freebie. See how it works, see how you feel about it. So then when you actually, if you do think, I can use this, it's of value to me, I can actually make it worthwhile paying for, then it takes you to the next stage. Final, David, where are we? Had a question there. Steve said, how about some coaching, John, about how to use body language, posture, how you present and talk? I'd be delighted to do that. Week on Thursday, I'm penciling it for now. Body language sounds good. David, happy to do that. As a venue... Question from Martha in Hamburg. As a venue for culture and corporate events, would you recommend doing an online concert for 30 minutes live on Facebook? Probably a 30-minute concert you could get away with, couldn't you? Because people want to go to it.
Yes,
and
exactly.
they have skin in the game. It's like a TV show. Yeah, as long as, and next time I'll talk about the kind of journey of keeping them involved and keeping them in the room with you, because that's really, really important too. Run out of time, guys, unfortunately. Jeremy, thank you very much. If you just do that, which is a round of applause. Yeah, I've discovered the jazz hands, a round of applause on that.
Oh, very good.
So, Jeremy, thank you very much indeed for that.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.
Lovely as always to have you with us. I'm going to finish by putting up the contact details on the screen. So if you want to get in touch, lovely to see people, as I always say this, from all over the world. From Dundee, where it's probably the hottest day of the year that Dundee's had for years and years. So, Ash, nice to see you. He's a fantastic ice hockey player. He can skate faster going backwards than he can forwards. To everybody from right then, and Vince knows Pash from old days, don't you? Yeah, just bringing people together. Paul out in Florida, have a very safe journey back. For Martha, who's out in Hamburg, for all the people up and down the country here, for all the Manchester City guys, thank you very much indeed. Tony, you're doing a seminar, are you next Friday? Hang on, I'll unmute you.
Right. Everybody's welcome.
Well, put on the chat where it is, and we'll try and join you for it, if that'll help.
Fantastic, that's great. I'm going to be talking about travel, exciting news about where you can fly to, what the problems are, how you can overcome your fear of flying moving forward, which destinations are going to be in vogue, and where you can get the best deals.
Brilliant, brilliant. Well, put the details up on the chat so people can actually find out where it is and follow you and hopefully link up for that. Thank you for joining us. James out there in Barcelona, enjoy the rest of the day. I'm sure it's going to be lovely warmed out there. To everybody, Steve, David, Dan, everybody, Beth, lovely to see you. Chris, thank you for bringing all your team with us, which you keep on doing, which is lovely. I think we've had the entire team at some stage on the calls. And if Jason's not with us, give him our love. Michael Pennington, always good to see you. Richard Doyle, a businessman of great repute and esteem in the whole of the country. Thank you very much. And Bernie and Simon, thank you. Lovely to have you all with us. Enjoy the rest of your day. Keep a week on Thursday free in your diary and bring loads of friends because that's what it's all about. Bye-bye, guys. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye. I'll share the screen so they've got the contacts. There we go.